Our 5-step impact framework comes with some guiding questions to help you to think more in detail and brainstorm your ideas. So first step is identifying your impact goal. Everything about your project will be around your impact goal. That's why it is in the middle. So all activities, outputs, stakeholders, and resources will be dependent on what impact you'd like to make. Because of this, it's an important step. In this step, first you should think about your ultimate impact goal. So what is your research question, or what wider problem are you aiming to solve? So your impact goal can be something that you may not have a direct influence on, such as changing political, environmental, economic, or social conditions. You probably may not be able to make a direct connection between your research and a policy change, but you can still track your contribution. To do this, you also should define your long-term and short-term outcomes based on your impact goal. To give you an example, in short term, you can increase awareness, knowledge, or motivation. And in long term, you can change certain behaviors, practices, increase collaboration between certain disciplines, or make people embrace certain technology. These short and long-term outcomes can lead you to your final impact goal. Step 2 is a stakeholder analysis. After identifying impact goal and outcomes, you need to think of who you're targeting to. Here, it is important to differentiate who is actively contributing to your project and who will be the target audience, because your engagement activities will be dependent on each of these groups. For example, steering committee meetings are activities for your active contributors of your project, whereas a conference can be for your target audience. It is also good to understand the initial perception of each stakeholder about your work. So do a sense check. What do they think about your project? How do they perceive it? Check their level of interest. Are they motivated by the project? Are they willing to engage? These are really important questions to address because your engagement activities and outputs will be based on your answers to these questions. Additionally, try to think of why you would like to engage with these people. What makes them important for your project? Finally, you may want to consider who would be disadvantaged by the results of your project, so you may want to involve them as well. The third step is identifying activities and outputs. Here, you should try to answer some of these questions. What are the activities you would like to do in order to communicate your project or findings to your targeted stakeholders? What outputs and channels you would like to create before, during, or after these activities? How are these activities and outputs going to help you to amplify your work? You should think about which ones are the must-do and which ones are nice-to-have activities, because this will help you to prioritize your activities and assign resources in the next step. Some examples of activities would be webinars, conferences, exhibitions, meetings, public events, or workshops. Outputs can be website, social media groups, presentations, academic publications, success stories, and blogs. Here, you may also want to assign a deadline and responsible person for each of your activities in order to turn this into a project plan. Otherwise, you may struggle with keeping track of the impact of your plan. So ask yourself these questions. When are you planning to do these activities? By when do you need to create these outputs? Who will be responsible for each of them? Last but not least, you should also come up with success indicators for each activity and output, because you need to know if you're on track, if you're doing well and succeeding. You need to think of how you will measure the success of your impact from each engagement, because in monitoring and reflection step, you will assess the overall success of your project impact. Step 4 is identifying resources. Until now, you have identified what activities and outputs that you would like to have throughout your project. But do you have the resources? In this step, you need to consider all resources that you have and what would you need to achieve your engagement activities. Is there any gap in between what resources you have and what resources you need? How can you close the gap? Or do you need to adjust your activities based on your current resources? Some of the examples of resources could be any skills that you have in the project team, financial resources, know-how, technology, or staff. The last step is monitoring and reflection. So, creating an impact plan is not linear and it is not a one-time thing. Therefore, this step actually is embedded in all steps. You need to take time and revisit each step in order to ensure that all activities, outputs, and outcomes are built on, and make sure all of them are helping you to achieve your impact goal. In this step, you need to identify how the monitoring process will be conducted and how it will be documented. During your project, you should regularly take a look into your success measures, which you have identified in step 3. Are you on track? What are the challenges you're facing in the project? What are your learning points? Can you improve anything? Maybe you can explore similar studies in this area and learn from them. And finally, ask feedback from your stakeholders and if necessary, adapt your impact plan accordingly.